twist and shout.
Ouais, le péché qu'elles ont pris des vôtres. Mais alors rendez-moi mon péché. Madame!
From a little-known master of Senegalese photography to a typecast-busting vision of Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, that's all coming up on today's show. But we begin in Liverpool circa 1963 when four local musicians by the names of John, Paul, George, and Ringo shot to international fame as they released their first album. Please Please Me came out 60 years ago this week, and please it did, sparking Beatlemania that would take years to die down and perhaps never has for the most die-hard fans. Selena Sykes takes a look back at the start of one of music's most iconic foursomes.
They performed on this stage 992 times. This basement in Liverpool was the birthplace of the anthem of the 60s. Love, we do. You know I love you. 60 years later, fans can still enjoy the Beatles' first album live, thanks to this tribute band.
I grew up with that album, fabulous album. So to hear it done live, brilliant.
Okay. It's amazing how, 60 years later, we're all here in this room celebrating the same album.
Please Please Me was released on the 22nd of March 1963. It was the first of many albums that would make the Beatles the best-selling group of all time.
Well, shake it up, baby. Shake it up, baby. Twist and shout. Twist and shout.
You can already hear how clever these guys are, how tight their harmonies are, how smart the arrangements are. Already on the first album, stuff that other bands weren't doing or could do at that time.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The Beatles' legacy is everywhere you look in Liverpool, as are their sources of inspiration. Like the iconic red gate of
Strawberry fields forever. Penny Lane, there is
and Penny Lane, the last stop on John Lennon's old bus route, a journey now carried out by fans from across the world.
Tony Slavin was formerly Bioletti's The Barbershop.
Neil Brannan has been sharing his love for the Beatles for 23 years.
And it's a real place that they sang about. It's not just a made-up song. They took inspiration from their childhood memories, which makes it real, which means it lasts a lot longer in people's minds.
Students can even study a master's in the Beatles at the University of Liverpool. The Fab Four weren't always adored in their hometown, as their global success coincided with economic decline in the city.
In the 60s and into the 70s, a lot of people felt that the Beatles abandoned Liverpool.
Since then, Liverpool has put itself on the map as a UNESCO City of Music, largely thanks to the Beatles. Beatlemania has created more than 2,000 jobs and makes around €100 million a year.
Well, from four icons of British rock, we go to an icon of American photography. Irving Penn was one of the most influential photographers of the 20th century, known first and foremost for his numerous covers of Vogue magazine. A major collection of his work is now showing at the Franciscans Cultural Center in Deauville, Normandy, an opportunity to rediscover the work of the multifaceted artist, from his high-profile portraits to his lesser-known still lifes, nudes, and ethnographic studies. Valériane Gauthier and Emerald Maxwell have this report.
What is really going on between Mr. Picasso's eye and Penn's eye through the lens? You can look at it again and again and again and still wonder and come back again and continue that question.
Irving Penn called a good photograph one that leaves the viewer a changed person. It is, in a word, effective. The photographer trained his lens on the cultural icons of his time: Picasso, Edith Piaf, Truman Capote, as well as on ordinary tradespeople he met in the streets of New York, Paris, and London.
His need to refine the image to the most simple denomination, to take away anything that was superfluous, makes him stand out extraordinarily well.
With his elegant, minimalist style, Irving Penn's also known for having revolutionized fashion photography. He photographed a record 165 Vogue covers over his career, stretching from the haute couture of the 1950s till 2004.
It's just really much more than you need to sell a dress. This is not, please go to the shop and buy the dress. This is, I'm using this dress to make an absolutely sensational work of art. I think that's why when we see his work in a museum, it fits perfectly, because he was interested in all of the things that photography needs to elevate itself beyond the way that we normally encounter it, which, you know, for most of Penn's life would have been in magazines.
With his still lifes, nudes, and the ethnographic portraits he took during his travels, the exhibition retraces the American artist's versatile 70-year career. It concludes with his platinum prints of chewing gum and cigarette butts, a transformation from debris into art of some of the most widely consumed and discarded products, a symbol for Penn of consumerism and contemporary culture.
Next, the story of a photographer who for most of his life has flown under the international radar. 89-year-old Adama Sylla has spent over half a century capturing stunning shots of his hometown, Saint-Louis, Senegal. His work is finally being shown in France for the very first time, with 2 special exhibitions running in Paris through mid-April. Sam Bradpiece and the rest of our team in Senegal went to meet this remarkable character.
At his family home, Adama Sylla is busy signing prints that will go on display in Paris. There are a variety of works, studio portraits, street shots, and pictures from special events and ceremonies. Adama Sylla captured the essence of Saint-Louis for more than 50 years.
I was in demand all over Saint-Louis. I currently have more than 40,000 photos in this workshop. It's thanks to photography that I was able to build this house.
Adama Sylla was more than the average studio photographer. He pushed boundaries and developed his own unique style, which impressed the curators of the Paris exhibitions.
What I find extremely interesting is the relentlessness and intensity of his work. You can see it in the shapes and in the colours. I was immediately amazed by his sensitivity, which you don't always find in the works of other photographers of this generation. He passed under the radar for too long.
Adama Sylla is highly respected in Saint-Louis, but is little known beyond the city. He is originally from Guenda, a neighbourhood cut off on a peninsula between the sea and the river. He opened a photography studio here in 1995, much to the delight of local residents.
The boss? Yeah, I know him well. Back then, when he lived in the neighborhood, he took photos of all of us. His studio was full every time there was an event.
When everything else is gone, the photos will stay behind. I'm happy with my success in a field that is truly important and necessary in life.
Adama Sylla hasn't put down the camera just yet. He's currently focused on documenting the coastal erosion blighting his community.
Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet has been reinterpreted so many times since its Elizabethan origins that you might not think it could hold any more surprises. But the Raymond Aquaviva Theatre Company here in Paris has come up with a new twist. They put the audience in control of the casting, with roles assigned regardless of gender or physical appearance. Joanna Citruc and Armelco went to check it out. Oliver Ferry brings us their report.
Romeo, mais pourquoi es-tu Romeo? Renie ton père, il refuse ton...
The balcony scene in Romeo and Juliet, one of the most famous in theatre, and here the 2 star-crossed lovers are played as they were in Shakespeare's day by male actors. This is at the instigation of the audience, who before every performance are invited to cast the show.
C'est leur casting.
They do the casting. It's their decision, their choice. We try to create something unique for the cast and for the audience. Everyone, no matter what sex or gender they may be, shares the same feeling. The aim is really to do a different play every time, even if it is the same story.
With a cast of 7, there's a total of 5,000 different combinations, so everyone has to prepare to perform any role in the play without knowing in advance who they'll be.
Je viens te parler de mariage, Juliette.
I can't say I play nurse like this, or Romeo like that, or Juliet like this, because I have to tailor my performance according to whoever I'm acting with. And it's very exciting to do that. If Juliet has a beard, my nurse is going to be a bit more gruff. And if Juliet's very petite, I'll act differently with her.
Je vais agir différemment avec elle aussi.
Ils vont garder pour elles le péché qu'elles ont pris des vôtres. Mais alors rendez-moi mon péché. Madame!
The laughter and awkwardness soon fall away, and you no longer think of the cast's gender or appearance, focusing just on the acting, which is the very aim of the show.
À une époque, je faisais plus de 100 kilos. Et dans les écoles de théâtre, on m'a toujours...
When I was in acting school, I weighed more than 100 kilos, and I was always told I'd never do Romeo and Juliet. You can never play Juliet. It wouldn't work. You couldn't do that role. And I've always wanted to have the last laugh, to bring the audience with me, because I know I'm not the only one who thinks this. I know that everyone wants to see this classic love story in another light. You want to see everyone having the right to this love. There are people who don't want physical appearance and gender to be the be-all and end-all.
Se dire que le physique, l'apparence, le genre, tout ça n'a vraiment aucune importance.
This very contemporary version of Shakespeare's play draws on topical notions of deconstruction of relationships and gender, while not being all that different to how it was first staged by its author more than 4 centuries ago.
And we go from the tale of two lovers to end with an exhibition contrasting two painters who perhaps loved to hate each other. Edouard Manet and Edgar Degas were both giants of Impressionism who tackled many of the same subjects, from horse racing and prostitution to Parisian cafe scenes. And a new exhibition at the Musée d'Orsay here in Paris displays their work side by side in an unprecedented partnership, offering audiences a new look at their ephemeral bond and lasting rivalry. We can end with images from that show, Manet and Degas. Thank you so much for watching. For more culture news, you can always head to our website or find us on social media. There's more news coming up on France 24 in just a moment.